Your heart, ready to hit. And motivation in this whole
Thank you. Oh, is not working.
No, it should work.
Madam Secretary, if you could have our roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1, Drew Mercy.
Present.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
General Manager Knutson.
Here.
General Counsel Tilden Kim.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you. It'll move us down to item number 4, voluntary public roll call. We're always glad to hear from our customers and interested people that are online. So if anybody would care to identify themselves, we'd love to hear.
Vincent Dino, Pumpdale Water District.
John Yucasset Mutual Group.
Welcome, John.
Welcome.
Vicky Roush, Antelope Valley RCD.
Yeah, welcome.
White Fence 3, Jack Cephas.
Welcome, Jack. We missed you, I think, last time.
Yeah, I did too.
Stewart, RCSD.
Hello, members of the board. Hi, George. This is John Joyce.
Hey, John.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone. And that'll bring us down to item number 5, public comments. Is anybody in the public who would wish to address the board? Item is not on the agenda later. Now's the time to do so. Okay, number 6, adoption of agenda. So a motion would be in order.
Mr. President, I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Director Miller, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, Director Donato. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Oops, roll call. Right?
Thank you. Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Okay. Motion carried. That'll bring us to item number, not the minutes. That'll bring us to the new business. And Matt, and I'll turn that over to you.
Actually, we need to do consent calendar. Item 7, we need to go back. Yeah. 7A1.
Yeah, missed that. Okay, 7A1, our consent calendar. We just have one item on there, the approval of the minutes of August 13th.
Director Mercy, move approval of consent calendar.
Motion by Director Mercy.
Second, Van Dam.
Second by Director Van Dam. If there's no further questions or comments, all in favor, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Drew Mercy.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carries. That'll bring us back to new business. Item number 8A. And Matt, will turn that over to you.
Yeah, I'll introduce this item. Thank you, President Lane. Good evening, board. So this evening we have Dave Shea, who's with HDL Warren and Cone. They're a consulting firm that we've used for a number of years that does our annual property tax analysis and prepares a forecast report. In your board packet, beginning on page, let me pull that up real quick, page 10, are some of the highlights that Dave is going to go through this evening. It's broken out between LA County and Kern County. So the first few pages in your board packet relate to LA County or Los Angeles County, and the following that, again on page 15, is the data associated with Kern County. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave Shea. He can kind of explain what service his firm provides the agency on an annual basis, and then he's going to get into the annual report. So take it away, Dave.
You're welcome.
Hi, thank you, members of the board. It's always a pleasure. Our firm provides property tax services to both cities and special districts throughout the state. We currently provide services to about, I think, 275 jurisdictions, ranging everywhere from Calexico on the Mexican border to Eureka and Arcata and Fortuna up in Humboldt County. And we have agencies as small as Huron and Parlier up in Fresno County, and agencies as large as Oakland and San Diego, as well as a number of large water and fire districts. The data that we provide each year is based upon the tax roll that we get from the county auditor or county assessors, and we also look at the auditor controllers reports to make sure that the data that we're pulling out is comporting with their reports. We also do some annual audits for our clients just to verify that the values that should be generating revenue to the district are generating revenue to the district. In most counties, the errors on the tax roll are fairly small. There are occasionally larger ones, mostly on the unsecured roll, but we do check every year using our computer systems to verify that areas are properly coded and are generating revenue to the agencies that they should be generating revenue to. The data that I'll be going over is for fiscal year 23-24. It does come directly from the assessor's office, and we do provide information on transfers of ownership that have occurred so far in 2023 that will affect the 24-25 tax roll values, and we can see what the sales have done to affect the current year roll and the last several year rolls. Holly, I'm not sure if you're going to put the slides up. Yep, I guess that's the answer right there. What you should be seeing right now is a report that we put together. This is a summary that just hits the high-level portions of the tax roll data so that you can see it from sort of a high level. The total value gained within the district in LA County is 6.3% this year. The bar graphic that you see sort of in the middle of the page is looking at the growth that's occurred in the last several years, going back to 2014. And you can see that the growth 2 years ago in 2021 was a little light. 2022 was a much more robust amount of value growth. And then 2023, that's the current year, is a little bit less than last year. But last year was bolstered by a lot of sales. You'll see the green portion of those columns reflects the amount of value growth that resulted from the transfers of ownership in 2022. If we scroll down toward the bottom, we're taking a look at your top 10. One more page up. There you go. The top 10 taxpayers within the LA County portion of the district, heavily leaning toward the defense industry with Northrop and Lockheed. A lot of unsecured value there. Total value is over $2.25 billion, but that does only account for about 6.7% of all the value in the district. So your property taxes are not particularly tied to any particular taxpayer, and that's always good information.
Just one question.
Sure.
On the aerospace companies, it's unsecured, so is that inventory? What would that be?
Most of that is by unsecured. That just means that the values are for equipment and fixtures, personal property that can be moved off site, and so it can't be seized to secure payment. That's really the only difference between secured and unsecured taxable value. But most of that does center around the equipment that's necessary for construction of their aerospace products.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
This question I have is number 4. What is Antelope Valley Shop?
That's a shopping center in I believe it's in Palmdale, could be in Lancaster, but it's just these are the names that are actually on the tax rolls, which are sometimes a little confusing. But Antelope Valley Shop LLC is a name for an owner of a shopping center. Given that it's in your top.
Well, the reason I'm asking.
Go ahead.
It's not duplicated with Walmart. It can't be the Walmart Sam's shopping center. It has to either the AV Mall or. I mean, I'm trying to.
Yeah, I mean they could be part of the same shopping center. A store like Walmart or Sam's, even when it's in a larger shopping center, is often on its own property. They own a postage stamp portion of the property, and so they'll have their own valuation, even if they are adjacent to or integrated within a larger shopping center.
And one other question, if you touch on it, the solar, then I'm surprised that's unsecured versus real property.
It's pretty common for the energy generation facilities, whether they be solar or wind. They typically are put on lease land. So the facilities are there. They're in a long-term lease. But they are on the unsecured roll because it is a leasehold. They don't own the underlying property. It's much more secure than your typical unsecured values that can be sort of moved around if necessary, but they're more permanent facilities, but they are on leasehold land, and so they show up on the unsecured roll.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead 2 pages. This is a little more detailed look at the values. It's a little small, but in the upper right box where it says revenue summary, the revenue that you generate within LA County from the 1% tax rate, that's the Prop 13 1% tax rate, is, and I'm going to look at my own version so I can see it a little better, is about $3.6 million. Now that's the amount that will be coming on the monthly remittance advices from that 1% share. In addition to that, within LA County, the state water contract override rate generates $23.6 million. And these are the amounts that we estimate your revenues to be from the valuations within the existing tax roll. You'll also be receiving revenue from supplemental and prior year collection assessments that will typically add 3 to 5% to that 1% revenue. And then for those areas that are in former redevelopment project areas, you receive some pass-through revenue as well as some residual revenue from the amounts left over after all of the obligations of the former agency are paid each January and June. So these amounts are not all that you'll be receiving, but it is what you should be receiving based upon the valuations and the share of the tax dollars that exist in all the tax rate areas. There to the left, the value change by cause. This breaks down the value change based upon the reason for that value change. The biggest ones typically are the change of value from the 2% inflation adjustment. This under Prop 13 is what happens from year to year for properties that don't otherwise change. So as you'll see on your tax bill for your homes, the values go up based upon 2% growth typically. Sometimes it's less, up to 2% growth on the real property value. In Avek's case, that's generated $552 million of new value. It was almost 29% of the new value added for this year. And then transfers of ownership. These are the properties that sold in 2022. Those added $884 million to the roll and was almost 45% of the total value gained. The other large value gainer for this year was on the unsecured roll at $208 million. That added almost 10.5% to your roll for this year. And that was based upon growth primarily in the aerospace facilities there in Palmdale. And then just briefly to the right, the breakdown of the values by land use category. Even though you've got a lot of value in commercial and unsecured within the LA County area, residential is still your largest tax base at $1.5 billion. And that's gone up about 6.97% for this year. And it accounts for almost 77% of the total value within the district's area. Unsecured values are about 10.5% of the gain for this year, and had a 12.74% increase over the values for last year. If we skip ahead another page, or 2 pages, please. This is a report that looks at sales over the last 5 years, and what's important here is that the very top line that's listed as 2023, these are the sales that have occurred so far in 2023 through August. And the sales that have occurred already in 2023 are going to add $476 million to the rolls for next year. And if you look at the far right column just below that, the sales that occurred in 2022 added a little over $1 billion to the rolls for this year. The sales in 2021 added about $1.1 billion to the rolls for 22-23. So, you know, the large amounts of growth and value that occurred from transfers of ownership the last 2 years is going to be quite a bit less for 24-25. With about 4 months of sales left, you're still going to gain quite a bit of value, probably not quite up to the $626 million that was added for the 21-22 roll, but something thereabouts. So instead of looking at value gain of about 6-point-something% for 24-25, we're probably looking at something closer to about 4 or 5%. But you know, we're going to know better by the time we get the total sales for 2023, and we'll provide your staff with a budget estimate for 24-25 once we've got all that sales data. But you know, the number of sales statewide is down, and the value gains on those sales tend to be lower. So you know, again, sales are still going to be a substantial value growth for 24-25, but it's likely to be a little bit lighter than it's been the last couple of years.
What is the abbreviation district non-SA area?
Oh, that's the portion of the district that's not within any of the former project areas. The SA designation is successor agency, which is you know, the former redevelopment agencies after dissolution became successor agencies, and so we use that SA nomenclature.
Thank you.
Can we move ahead to the next page, please? So here we're looking at the value growth within the Kern County portion of the district. By percentage, the value growth was more substantial at about 10.7%. And a lot of that growth had to do with growth within the district for wind energy. The values there in Kern County added a net $317 million in new value on wind and solar energy facilities. There were some facilities that actually went down in value a bit, but a lot more growth and that growth is shown on this bar graph as the purple color. That's the growth in unsecured value and miscellaneous other. Sales within Kern County are down a bit, as you can kind of make out. The 2022 green portion of that bar graph is a little bit larger than what we're seeing for 23-24. But you also had more new construction, which was blue, that showed up in 2023. So the growth for this year in Kern County was a little stronger than the growth last year. But again, as we'll see, the sales and new value for 24-25 is probably going to be a little bit less next year. If we look down at the top 10 owners down below, you'll see most of the top owners are either wind or solar energy or mining. That's U.S. Borax and the National Cement Company. Both of those took pretty good increases for this year. And between the wind energy, solar, and the mining, that was the vast majority of your growth for this year. Your top 10 owners total about $4.2 billion in value for 23-24, and that accounts for about 42.6% of all the value in the Kern County portion of the district. Can we move ahead 2 pages, please? Here again is a breakdown of the values by use. The upper right corner, revenue, 1% revenue to the district from the several areas within Kern County, is going to be just a bit under $1.3 million. The state water contract revenue will be about $6.9 million. And again, that's based upon the values for the year and the district share of the tax rate, which will increase those amounts to some degree. Over to the left, you can see the value change by cause. Again, CPI growth at 2% was a reasonably good amount of growth for this year at $76.7 million. That was 8% of the total value gained. Transfers of ownership in 2022 added $231 million to the roll for this year. That was 24% of the value gained. And then non-residential new construction added $187 million, and unsecured values increased by $256 million. Over to the right, value change by land use category. Unlike LA County, in Kern County, a lot more of your value is focused on unsecured values than in LA County. The growth for this year at $256 million on the unsecured roll was almost 27% of the total value gained. Residential value was also strong at about $250 million of value gained. It was actually a change in that category of 11.26% over the prior year. That was about 26% of the total value gained for the year. And then the miscellaneous, which includes the mining and aggregate extraction, added $261 million to the roll for this year. That was up 20.79% from the prior year and was 27% of the total value gained. Let's move ahead 2 slides.
This, going back to the one question, unsecured.
Sure.
Now that would be solar or wind, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the vast majority of the gain on the unsecured roll. There are some other unsecured gains, but most of it is wind and solar energy.
With the underlying land, would that be assessed differently?
Yeah. The underlying land, to a great degree in Kern County, is government owned. We've got property that's owned by flood control district or other private owners, and they lease the land on a long-term basis to the energy developers.
And that would be assessed. The land would be assessed separately.
Correct. Thank you. Let's move ahead 2 pages. again, we've got sales here. As you can see, just as in LA County, if you look at the column in the far right, there was quite a bit more gain in value as a result of transfers of ownership the last 2 years. 2 years ago in 22, 23, the value added to the roll from sales in 2021 was $220 million. You had $211 million added to the current year roll from sales in 2022. And then sales through August for 2023 total $102 million. So it's about half of what we saw the last couple of years, which is, based on what we're seeing with other clients, that's actually a pretty respectable number. With 4 months left to go, that's going to increase. And in a lot of areas, the sales for the current year, 2023, are down by far more than what we're seeing here. But it is likely that when we provide the estimates for 24-25, fiscal year 24-25, the growth won't be as robust as we saw in these last 2 years. With that, I think I've covered the highlights. I'm happy to go through any other particular items with you that you might want a little more detail on.
There's a lot of information that it'll take a while to absorb it all, but it's presented very clearly.
Yeah, this is the Reader's Digest version too. I'm sure your staff still has glazed eyes from all the reports I went through with them last week.
How does this compare with the different agencies that you report on in Northern California, different parts of the state? Are we close or above or below or?
Yeah, I mean, well, the Avek has areas in 2 distinct, counties. The area in Kern is a completely different nature than the area in LA County. I'm sure you know that. We do work for several large water districts. Eastern Municipal and Western Municipal in Riverside County, Molten Miguel down in Orange County. They have different natures, and while the values are different, the dynamics of property tax in the state, not just for special districts but for cities as well, are pretty much the same. The value growth from year to year is mainly driven by sales. Even if there's a lot of new development that occurs in a particular district, the actual growth is really driven by transfers of ownership. And, we're seeing the transfers of ownership, the number of sales going down, and we're seeing the median sale prices sort of flattening out, in some cases going down a couple of 2 or 3%, sometimes still going up a bit. Again, that varies a lot from area to area. But we are still seeing a lot of value growth due to sales, because there are a lot of properties that haven't sold in the last 5 to 7 years. And if you look at the value change from year to year, especially among residential properties, a lot of growth has occurred in the last 5 years. And if you've got a property that hasn't sold since the 2000 to 2010, or even 2010 to 2015, when those properties sell, they can sometimes gain 200 or 300% in value, as a result of bringing those values up to current market values. And we're still seeing a lot of growth, even in value, even if the sales are down and the median sale prices are flattening. If the mortgage rates go down a bit over the last part of the year, we'll start seeing sales increase, because I think the mortgage rates are keeping the number of sales down a bit, and all we got to do is get that down a bit to sort of increase people's anxiety and desire to get back in the market.
Is there any other questions from directors or staff? Very thorough, very good report.
Good.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you much.
My pleasure.
Have a good night.
You too.
The next item we'll bring is new business. The Finance Committee, Director Donato is chairman of that committee.
Thank you. We met last Thursday and we have several items here. First one is 8B1, consider possible action to accept and file the check registry list for the period of September 14th to the 27th of 2023.
The director's had a chance to review that. If not, we'll take a moment. Probably a motion would be in order.
Okay. I move on board order AB1 that we accept the check registry.
Motion by Director Donato,
I'll second.
second by Director Miller. If there's no further, questions, Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried.
Brings us to B2. This one is considered possible action on approving a purchase order with 4 main supply not to exceed $25,287 for a roll moving machine, budget capital project, and operations manager Tom Bozigan is going to give us an overview on it.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Good evening, everyone. So any purchases over 25,000, we bring to the Finance Committee and the full board for approval. The first one we have, if you go to the next slide, Holly. So what this machine does, easier to explain if I show you the finished product. So what you see on the screen here is 2 pieces of pipe, and then you have this coupling that couples them together. And typically in our turnouts, all of our turnouts, you have meters, you have valves, you have pressure reducing valves, and everything is connected by flanges. But at some point, you have to have a way to bust it apart when you're going to replace something. And if it's all flanged together, you can use a flange spreader, but very difficult to get it back together without leaks. So typically what the industry standard is you use these Victaulic couplings, and they join the pipe together, and to remove it, you just pull the coupling apart, slide the gasket out of the way, and lift the valve or whatever you're going to replace right out. Also, the good thing about this is, let's say you have a turnout, you have a pipe coming in from this direction, pipe coming in from that direction. Typically, those pipes don't exactly line up, so you have a little deflection. This coupling allows certain degrees of deflection without leaking, and that's another benefit of it. So the reason we would like to purchase this machine is, if you go to the next slide, Holly. Okay, so the pipe, you can see this has a groove cut in it. Kind of hard to see with my pointer. There's a groove that cuts into the end of the pipe. That's what the coupling grabs onto. What we've had to do in the past is we've had to order these special length pipes already grooved from Victaulic, and it can take up to 6 weeks to get this pipe because they're kind of the only game in town. You can imagine if you have an emergency, you can't wait 6 weeks. That's pretty tough. So what we propose to do is to stock standard size piping, 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch. And our maintenance department with this machine can cut the pipe to length, roll the groove. This is actually a cut groove. We prefer a rolled groove because it doesn't reduce the thickness of the pipe. So we'll roll our own groove. We'll put it in epoxy coat it, put it in place, and we can get this whole job done in probably about 2 or 3 hours. The machine itself is $25,287.52. We have a $60,000 budget for large tools, so we're well within budget. And we did price this is a Victaulic machine who invented this type of coupling. We did price a rigid machine, and Ridge is a very well-known name in pipe wrenches and plumbing tools. And the rigid machine was a couple $1,000s more expensive. Thought it's more prudent to go with the Victaulic machine because that's who makes this stuff. So we would, with that being said, we'd ask that the board would approve the purchase of this machine from Core and Main Supply.
The finance committee went through this and I had a lot of questions. One of the things, John, on this is what he said was the time. If something was a break, and that was the other question. The piping that we're talking about here that would have to be repaired or replaced is above ground.
It's not buried.
It's not buried.
Yes, it's in a vault. It's accessible.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And also, like you said, if we have an emergency, you're not calling 911. So
right.
You got to figure out how to get that thing done. And I think, to me, it can be used for all our plants as well.
I think it'll pay for itself within a couple of years, for sure.
How come we didn't do it sooner?
Well, we kind of formed our maintenance department, Gary, and, we farmed all this stuff out before we had a maintenance department. Now we have a maintenance department. We have skilled technicians that know how to use this equipment. And our things are getting, our appurtenances are getting older. And they're doing more and more of this replacement. So it seemed like now was a good time to buy this machine.
They'll service it for us, or how's the warranty?
The warranty, I'm not sure what the warranty is, but it's like a pipe threading machine. It comes with different sized dies, and all you really do is you just keep it clean. Keep it lubed up when you're doing the work, and then keep it clean. And I know they'll do that.
The one thing I like about going this direction is you'll be able to get pipe at a fair price.
Right.
Store it, and we don't have to worry about it. And
right.
You call up the maintenance supervisor and say, let's get this taken care of. So that's
right.
One thing I like about it. Yeah, a lot of these things, Gary, everything we did for decades was all outsourced to everybody.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And with COVID, a lot of people have left the business and moved out of state. I mean, we fight it all every day.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, we have a recommended
question, Mr. President.
Sure.
Just curious how frequently and how often you'd expect to be using this. The reason I'm asking is thinking for the same reason why it's good for us to have it in case of emergency. Is there a way to have a cost sharing type of thing if other public agencies in the area might have a need for it?
Yeah, Drew, I think probably we do. We probably make at least half a dozen of these a year, and I think it's going to increase as things get older. Avek has always shared our resources with other agencies, as they have with us. I can tell you our CSD and Quartzo Water District have always helped out Avek, and we've tried to return those favors. So if any agency needs a pipe grooved, we'd absolutely do it for them.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We approve order 8B2 in the amount of $25,287.52 for the roll moving machine.
We have a motion by Director Donato. Do we have a second?
Mercy, seconds.
Director Mercy, we have a second. If there's no further questions, Madam Secretary, could I have a roll call?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Okay, motion carried.
Okay, that brings us to item 8B3, and this is considered possible action on approving a purchase order with Core and Main Supply not to exceed $131,898.69. And again, Operations Manager John Bozigan is going to give us an overview on this as well.
Okay, Holly, if you want to go to, there we go. Picture's worth 1,000 words. This is our central feed pump station in Rosamond. We have 4 large pumps. 4, that small pump is a backwash pump. What these pumps do is they lift water 400 feet from the Rosamond plant to the Mojave tank farm. And you can imagine when you're lifting water 400 feet, when that pump shuts off, that water wants to reverse flow. What does that do? That causes a huge surge in the system. That's why we do have a large surge tank at Rosamond. But you also need to wait. You need a way to arrest that reverse flow. And see, my cursor is pointing to this check valve here. Each pump has a check valve. We actually have installed 2 new ones last year. They started painting the pump station blue as the industry standard for potable water. And then they thought, well, wait a minute, if we're going to be replacing valves, let's just wait till we get this all done and paint the rest of them. That's why one's blue and the others are not. So these 2 have been replaced. These last 2 we would like to replace this year. And what these units are is they're very slow closing hydraulically dampened check valves. So the pump shuts off. You can set the closing speed, so it's a very soft closure and it doesn't surge the system, protects our system. And we thought, you know what, while we're at it, we want to replace 3 of these butterfly valves that do not seal. We're going to pull this whole thing apart. Let's replace these 45-year-old valves while we're at it. So we priced these check valves. Gary, before you asked, we called Rain for Rent and we gave them an opportunity. So Core & Main is a huge supplier of any type of valve. We got proposals from them. We also called Rain for Rent. We called Ferguson to give us a proposal. They did not. Core & Main was the only one that submitted a proposal. These valves are very special. It's not like the old days where they have them on the shelf. Now they actually build them. When you order it, they build it. It takes 32 weeks to get these valves. So we want to get this approved, get them ordered, so we can have them installed by next summer and operational. So what we did is we have a budget of $105,000. You can see we're over budget by about $26,000, and that's only because we're replacing butterfly valves also. Otherwise, the check valves would be under budget. So in cases like this, what we do is this project really needs to be done, but our overall capital asset replacement budget we will not exceed. That board approved amount will not be exceeded. But sometimes certain projects go higher than we expect. So we'll kind of monitor that throughout the fiscal year. With that said, we'd ask the board to approve the purchase of these valves from Core & Main.
John, is this being looked at for the other plants also?
Yeah, what we do, George, is when we do our capital budget, our asset replacement budget every year, we typically look at our oldest facilities and facilities we know we have a problem with. And we try to every year update things. And so far we've been staying ahead of the curve. Those are 14-inch. 14-inch, and they're also 250 class. So they're specialized thick, multiple bolt flanges.
Right. We can't get rid of the butterfly valve with that clay check valve in place?
No, because let's say you had to work on that check valve. There's no way to shut that central feed pressure. That's about 180 psi. Oh. So that butterfly valve isolates it. So if you do have to work on it, you have that safety.
Right. So this is pressure from the pipeline, not the...
It's 400 feet ahead from Mojave all the way back to the Rosamond plant. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll make a motion on an 8B3 that we approve the $131,898.69.
Second, Van Dam.
Got a motion and a second. Director Donato and Director Van Dam. If there's no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Director
Thank you.
Donato.
Good job, John.
Yeah, that'll move us down to the High Desert, water bank, and we've got an item on that. And Director Donato is chairman of that committee also.
Yes, we're gonna have, our engineer manager Justin come up here and give us an overview of our High Desert Water Bank project.
All right, thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, President Lane, members of the board. Probably a pretty quick update this month. Not a whole lot has changed since we had this update last month, but in the audience with us, you probably remember from last time, we have Earl Schwartz. Earl's our construction manager out at the project site, working for Kennedy Jenks. We also have Paul Chow from Kennedy Jenks, who's serving as our program manager. So jumping into section 1, this was new last month, but just as a refresher of kind of the overall goals of the project, as well as some of the key principles within the agreement that we have with Metropolitan Water District. So as far as goals go, 70,000 acre feet of recharge and recovery from the project site, and an overall storage capacity of 280,000 acre feet. As far as the agreement goes, we have a term through 2037 currently with an option for a 20-year extension. Metropolitan agrees to pay all capital costs as well as operation, maintenance, replacement, and management costs for the project. And Avek agrees to own and operate the project. Met receives the first priority banking rights in the project, and Avek receives secondary capacity in the event that Metropolitan chooses not to utilize their entire 70,000 acre feet in any given year. And Avek receives a financial benefit of $100 per acre foot returned to the aqueduct for Metropolitan Water Districts. Once we have that recovery capacity, we begin returning that. We receive that $100 per acre foot, and that's escalated with CPI. So being that the agreement that was executed a few years ago, that's currently up to about $117 per acre foot and will continue to increase with that CPI factor. Moving along, we've got our map here, and this hasn't changed since the last time, but just quickly go through. The aqueduct turnout located right here. The green pipeline here has been already installed, pressure tested, and some portion of that is currently in use as we've started the banking activities out there. The orange piping, some of this is currently in progress of being installed into this northern part, which we're calling the stage 2 area of the site. The stage 1 area located down here in the southeast corner is currently in use. So we're banking about 100 acre feet a day into that portion of the site. And that is Metropolitan Water District's water. Also on the map, you can see a series of dots, blue and orange. Blue dots indicate wells that have already been drilled on the site. Orange indicate the wells that are yet to be drilled, totaling out to 27 total recovery wells. On the left-hand side, we've got...
in the future, those dots don't show up very well.
Yeah, okay. We can update this figure, maybe try to blow it up or make those dots a little bit larger. On the left-hand side, we have short-term goals, things that the team's working to accomplish over the next few months. We're getting very close. Earl's got a bit of an update on the turnout contract. Of course, the aqueduct turnout construction is complete, and we're currently flowing water through that. Just got a few items to tackle with Blois before we can officially close that part out. Nicholas will continue working on the construction of the recharge basins in that stage 2 area, as well as the piping installation up in that vicinity as well. And they've got a little bit more work to do on that. Their contract is through June of next year. But they're moving right along, as Earl will show a little bit later. Item 3 on there is completed. We did have that up there at last meeting. I just left it up there with a strike through, and that's the storage agreement with the water master. We had that meeting last month, and we've executed that agreement now, so that's all good. We can get that one off the list. And then item number 4 is a ribbon cutting event with Metropolitan Water District. I think you all received an email from General Manager Knudsen regarding that event. So that's to take place on October 23rd, so a couple of weeks from now. Moving into program management, you can see the team of players involved in the project across the top there. This is kind of to highlight the work that Kennedy Jenks is doing. They're currently doing a good job of keeping everybody on task and keeping the project moving along on schedule, making sure everybody's aware of anything they owe Avek or the project team as far as deliverables, reviewing designs, making comments, participating in our progress meeting. So they're doing a very good job at that. The right-hand side of this is upcoming board decisions. Again, we have the storage agreement was on there last time, so we've just crossed that off and marked that one as complete now. And as I mentioned, with the completion of the turnout project, once we get everything wrapped up with the contractor, we'll come back to the board to issue the notice of completion for that project, as we always do when we finalize construction projects. Moving into engineering, this is primarily work that Stantec and their subcontractors are doing. They continue to participate in the construction of the project by way of answering questions from the contractors and responding as necessary. They participate in our construction progress meetings as well. And they're currently working, their subconsultant, Montgomery & Associates, is working on updating the groundwater model with the new information that was received from the drilling package 2. They're getting very close to that. We're anticipating having a slide deck to review from them this week. And so we'll be able to get an early review of that and provide an update to the committee as well. Moving into financials, this table summarizes the contracts that we've entered into. Nothing really new here on this. So kind of thing that I look at is the far right-hand column here, which is the percentage of the contract that we've paid out to date. And everything's tracking very well. You can see on the construction side, the Blois contractor, they did the aqueduct turnout. They're at 95% complete as far as their billing goes. That 5% that's remaining is the retention that we always hold from every contract until we get everything all closed out. Nicholas Construction, they're up to 72% as far as billing goes. And as I mentioned, they have until middle of next year to, as far as schedule, to complete the project. So they're moving along very quickly with the construction and progress that they're making in the field. So they're doing a very good job of that. So overall, everything's tracking really well with the budget. Moving into the capital program account. So this is the account that Metropolitan funds, and then we pay our contractors and consultants out of. So you can kind of see the balance over time, the deposits that Metropolitan has made to the project so far. So totals out to about $68.5 million. Right now, we've got an account balance of about $2.3 million after making all the payments we needed to make in September. And we've got two outstanding invoices to Metropolitan at this time. One for about $4.3 million, that's due at the end of this month. And then we've got a special invoice here that's about $10.5 million, and that has to do with the Southern California Edison. So that was one of the items when Metropolitan recently went to their board to get authorization to pay that deposit, and that's for Southern California Edison to get started on the work required to bring the off-site power to the site. So if you remember, a new 66 kV transmission line is needed to come about 10 miles from the project.
The estimated cost, or will it probably be more than that?
That's Edison's best guess at the cost, and that's for just the portion that we're responsible for. I think we provided a previous update where the overall cost of bringing that transmission line in is $70 to $80 million. That portion is just Avek's or Metropolitan's share.
Now, the difference, Edison pays that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They just have it for future users?
Yeah, they call that standard facility. So it's, that transmission line they can connect future customers onto if they need to.
Did they give you a completion date?
Yeah, they said it was a 44-month schedule to get that all completed. So right now that puts us early 2027.
Oh my God.
That's unbelievable.
And what's the length of that line approximately?
About 10 miles or so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as soon as we get that check in our hands, we'll be turning that around and giving it to SCE, and they'll then be able to get started on everything. So then at that point, we can start putting some serious pressure on them to maybe expedite that schedule if they can. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Earl to handle all the construction activity on the site. So Earl, come on up.
Thank you, Justin. Good evening, members of the board. Good evening, General Manager. I am presenting tonight the update, as Justin was saying, to two projects, the turnout turn-in project and the recharge project. So as the slide is on it now, the turnout turn-in project, the general contractor is Blois Construction. And as you can see, we are completed 99.999% of the field work. And so, yep, next slide, please. Oh, can I hit this clicker? Yeah. Oh, that one. Okay, perfect. I'll do that. Okay. So with the turnout turn-in project and the recharge project both kind of blended together here, this is a timeline of the recharging, the whole purpose of the projects. And so that is the area, stage 1 area. It's basins 6 going northerly to basin number 1. So on the first day of charging on August 28th, you can see that's the slide on the left, and water started to enter into turnouts numbers 1 and 2 in basins 6 and 4. And as the slides from the timeline are, on day 5, you can see that the water's increasing. Again, day 10 further, and day 12 continuing, and you can see on day 17, this is basin, the slide on the left is basin 6, and water was getting close to spilling the crest, which would then drain into basin number 5. And on day 19, September 15th, is when the water started to crest the spillway and drain into basin number 5 on the right. So yeah, this is day number 24. You can see that in basin number 6, it was spilling into basin 5. So basin 5 was showing some increase in its saturation, and day 26 is on September 22nd. You can see basin number 4. There's still quite a ways to go before it starts to reach its crest of its spillway and start draining into basin number 3. Again, it was from September 22nd. We'll have updated pictures for the next month's update. So with that, the High Desert Water Bank Recharge Project, stage 1 and 2, the general contractor is Nicholas, as Justin was mentioning. They're doing a great job. The contract completion is in July at this time of 2024 is where it's structured. The stage 1 pipeline was completed, of course, with the recharging. The basin spillways in stage 1 were also completed. Now we're into stage 2A and 2B. The recharge basins 20 and 21 are under construction. And the stage 2 recharge basins 23 through 27 are also under construction, and the stage 2 pipeline is under construction. So this picture is of the northerly stage 2 basin, stage 2B basin areas. I'm not sure on the pointer. Oh, there it is. Okay. So on this pointer, this is basin 21, and this is basin number 20. So this area here. And so as you can see from this picture, both basin spillways have, concrete spillways have been poured. And the basin is fairly complete as far as construction. There is some pipeline work that will still need to be performed, and some riprap and aggregate base. This is the stage 2A area. So my cursor, this is Avenue B. My cursor is Avenue A8 from the previous slide. So anyways, this is Pescado Creek drainage corridor. This is the conservation land. This is Oso Creek drainage corridor. And for this basin, stage 2A area, this is basin 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. And as you can see, it's under construction. Still quite a bit of pipeline work to do and aggregate base. The spillways have been poured. This picture is not quite 100% up to date. So the basin spillways have been poured for 23, 24, and 25. 26 and 27 are sealed and should be poured sometime in the next couple weeks. And then, of course, there's aggregate base and riprap that needs to be performed on these basins as well. So that concludes my update for this month. And certainly with that, definitely have questions if you have them.
I have a question. So how's the mechanics of the big door we had built? Is that everything there functioning well correctly?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a little need for there was like a little clutch on the actuator, and there was a little bit of an understanding that that was not quite aware. So, but we were out there last Thursday, and so the gates operate fantastically remotely. Everything is working perfectly, so there's no issues there.
I think when I had a report last week, I think it was that the percolation is doing pretty well too. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I'm as far as what I've been monitoring, it's at 18 CFS in turnout 1, about 36 CFS in turnout 2, CFS cubic feet per second. I know that from a totalizer standpoint and how much flow has been going into the basins, I know that Avek, Joe Roberts, and Justin are well aware of that, and they certainly see things remotely online as far as the total flow. I don't quite get involved in the totalizer of the amount of flow, but everything's working very well.
What is that equivalent to for inches per day?
In inches per day, we are getting really good saturation. So as a matter of fact, it's the increase is pretty slow. The basins are very large. There's shelves to the basins. We're getting a great infiltration rate. But I think Justin would.
1 foot per day.
How much?
About 1 foot per day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No,
Really good.
that'll slow down through time though, won't it?
It's expected. Yeah, as everything saturates, it'll slow down a little bit, but not seen it yet. So that's good.
Good. And how deep are those ponds before it hits a spillway?
Yeah, they're probably in the neighborhood of about 5 feet deep, plus or minus.
So we could stock them with big mouth bass and fishing.
There's certainly some good environmental stuff going on right now.
Yeah, I think we have a budget for that.
You know those so well, all of our bonds right there, recharge facilities. Are they going to be? Is there going to be signage? Like number 1, talking about 22, 23. Is there anything contemplated for that?
Yeah, I don't think the basins themselves are going to be numbered. The wells will have some signage and lettering on those, but I don't think the individual basins will fit that.
Look on the wells. Are we in phase 2 drilling the wells, or where we at with that?
Yeah, we're kind of waiting for that modeling report to be completed, and then that'll kind of help us inform what the next phase of the well drilling package looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
But phase 1's all done as far as, what was it?
The first 10 wells are
There's
done.
10,
So
okay.
we call those, what we call the first one pilot recovery wells. The next one we call drilling package 2.
Right.
So those are complete. So the next package we release will be called drilling package 3.
Okay. And Bakersfield Well and Pumps also doing,
It'll be competitive.
okay.
Thank you, Earl. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Earl. Good job. The last 2 slides, there's really not much. No other items and no board action items for tonight. So that concludes the report, unless anybody has any final questions.
Does the other representative have any comments?
Paul?
Hey, Robert, I don't at this time. Thank you.
I have a question, Judson. So since we have to wait so long for the power, does that mean the wells won't have power for a while?
Yeah, and so at this point, we've the 10 wells that we've drilled, they're just holes in the ground. So there's no motor, pump, electrical, none of that is in place yet. Right now, Stantec, as the engineer, is working on developing the design package and specifications to bid the equipping of that out. And so we'll be moving forward probably with some more well drilling, and then the later well drilling packages may come we'll be equipping them as we go around. So all of that is looking like it's going to line up pretty closely with Edison's schedule. We'll probably be a little bit ahead of that. So we're hoping that we can accelerate Edison and maybe both meet the mark at the same time. Yeah.
So Met wouldn't be able to withdraw any of their banked water until it's done.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, with those wells not working like that, will the perforations start to rust up, or do we got to test pump those wells?
Yeah, I mean, so when they're drilled, their test pumps, we have had that conversation with Stantec's hydrogeologist as well as Kennedy Jenks's team, and it's anticipated that because they will sit for some time, that a little bit of remediation work will be necessary before they'll start pumping, with the efficiency that we expect to see.
Sandec is going to be specifying for the wells.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, several years ago, there was some controversy over how they were specified, what should be done and what should not be done. And you probably remember that, Frank. It was a rather well company that looked at that, and they.
I don't remember.
What was the name of that, Gary? The well company here in the valley.
Yeah, Rotman.
Yeah, Rotman.
Yeah,
but they had some comments. Now,
but
I wasn't here.
But the different ways of drilling the wells.
Yeah.
The drilling method.
Controversy between one was rotary and the other one was air.
Yeah.
Is there any oversight on that? Because he felt pretty strong about one method, and we did not do that method.
Yeah, I think Montgomery and Associates had their say on the type of drilling. I think we did all the reverse rotary, right? Reverse rotary mud.
Yes.
The wells that we have with the size that they are and the depth that they are, there's really not many other choices.
It might be nice at some point to have a presentation about what's being chosen and why, and what the alternatives are.
Okay.
Yeah, we can have Tim Leo. Tim's on the phone today, but Leo is the hydrogeologist that designed the wells. We can have him give a presentation.
At that time, everybody didn't agree with what was being done. So it'd be nice for the board to be just aware, why this is being done. And what
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I think we should write a letter to Governor Newsom and ask if we can use a diesel about every quarter to get until we get the power in, because it's taken 4 years to get the power.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an alternative. That's a good suggestion, Frank. You could go to diesel driven with a gearhead.
Yeah.
And just pump them wells that way.
Yeah.
Rotate them, every quarter or something like that. I mean, that's what to ask, because it's going to defeat the purpose. We have to go back and repair these things because they're clogged. Or natural gas, something that allows us to pump these wells, every 3 months.
Yeah, to exercise them.
Yeah, it's special. I mean, we're going to do it permanently. So
yeah.
I guess the question is how long do they start? How long does it take before they start to actually?
Yeah. Tim, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, these are all good questions. Yeah, we'll absolutely have to develop some type of a, short-term pumping program to keep them healthy. That's common, and they can start to, lose capacity. That's normal, and as soon as we get closer to being able to do that, we probably run a camera down the well to look at them and see what they look like, and then from that we can decide what's the best way to exercise them, keep them healthy. But that would be a good idea, and we absolutely would recommend that we do something to keep water moving in the wells.
I think we can get it done.
I remember Larry Rotman telling me that a well with a little bit of water, as long as you just keep it working, it'll just continue to produce.
It'll certainly help. So we discussed that, and as we get further in, I think it'd be good to develop plans to do that, to keep them happy.
We've got to try.
Yeah, those are good points.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, some homework for us. So we'll have that
start
We
working
know
on
where a couple of diesel motors are idle right now, generators.
that. Yeah, that's right.
They need to be run. We know there's a truck that can haul them too.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Okay,
But I'm serious. We need to really try, maybe get, MW, Metropolitan involved, to get special permission just every quarter to keep these things going.
Yeah.
Do we have gearheads, John, or?
We do not have gearheads, but we have generators. For sure.
Okay, but don't we need gearhead? Okay, so you'd power the motor off a generator instead of gearhead, okay.
They're also what we would the electric.
Right, okay, yeah.
You're talking about deer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you much.
Thank you. There you go.
There we go. So with the State Water Project Committee, there's been a deep interest in checking under the hood of the State Water Contractors Organization, seeing what they're doing, seeing what kind of value they bring back for our dues that we pay them every year. So this organization was founded in 1982, and it was founded by 27 of the 29 state water contractors got together and decided they wanted an entity to live and breathe up in Sacramento and take care of our interests on the state water project. And so they really look out for our legal, policy, and regulatory interests while they're up there. And that's kind of their chief focus, along with being the direct liaison with the Department of Water Resources. So it's been a helpful organization to kind of drive home key points with DWR, with the legislature, with other entities like State Water Resource Control Board over the years. So I thought I'd put their mission statement up there, and I'll read it out. I think it's relevant because we actually gave them this mission. So it's to advocate on behalf of our members for improved supply, reliability, and water quality based on sensible science-based policies related to the State Water Project that result in sustainable and cost-effective management of the State Water Project for California citizens, economy, and environment. And so that's not one that they just came up with themselves. That's something that 27 contractors got together and said, this is your mission. This is what we want you to do. The right way. There we go. So here we have the state water contractor map. So everything that's shaded in blue is a state water contractor. Those top two are Butte County and Plumas County. They're the only two contractors that are not a part of the State Water Contractors Organization. And you might ask, why? Why is that? But the reality is they don't have nearly the infrastructure that the rest of the state water contractors do with the State Water Project. They're right up there, up with Oroville Dam, and that's essentially their key piece of infrastructure. For the rest of us, we all have to deal with the pump stations, the State Water Project, aqueduct, and all of the operations that DWR puts in place, and all the politics that are involved with moving that water through the Delta. Those two contractors don't. So that's probably why they don't choose to invest in being part of the State Water Contractors Organization. And so they broke, when they formed the State Water Contractors Organization, they needed a form of government for it. They broke all the contractors up into 8 different classes. So the easiest way to look at this is that it's essentially grouping them by area. And it pretty much goes from north to south. So class 1 are north of Delta contractors, right adjacent to the Delta. Class 2 are just south of the Delta. Class 3 are Central Valley contractors that aren't Kern County Water Agency. Class 4 is Kern County Water Agency all by itself. Class 5 is the coastal branch of the aqueduct going out towards Santa Barbara. And then Class 6 is Metropolitan Water District. Class 7 are the West Branch contractors that aren't Metropolitan Water District. And then Class 8, the class that we belong to, are the East Branch contractors of the State Water Project that aren't Metropolitan Water District. So there's 10 of those. And because we have so many in our group, and because we actually have a really large proportion of Table A amongst our whole group, we have 2 board seats for the State Water Contractor Board. Every other one only has 1 representative. Yeah. All right. So then this is just a quick look at Class 8. So the class we belong to. You can see Avek there in red. And we got our pink neighbor, Mojave. And then the only one that is not a Class 8 member is yellow, and that's Metropolitan Water District there. Everyone else on that map is a state water contractor belonging to Class 8. So 10 agencies, and we do hold those 2 board seats for the state water contractors. Just a little bit more about Class 8. We're the 3rd largest class by Table A, second only to Metropolitan Water District in Kern County. About 607,000 acre feet in total, and 14% of the total Table A for the State Water Project. So we have almost the same amount as the rest of the 5 classes combined outside of Kern County and Metropolitan Water District. All right, so Class 8 does get together. We collaborate. So one of our key things, we want to engage with Metropolitan Water District and Kern County and DWR. And we want to make sure that our needs and our voices are heard as the other East Branch contractors. We work together to make sure that we're aware of how the State Water Project's operations and maintenance affect the East Branch. Sometimes there are shutdowns on the East Branch. Sometimes I think we just recently had a pump outage at Pear Blossom Pumping Plant that impacted several East Branch contractors. So they'll kind of get together and focus on those issues. Speaking of Pear Blossom, there's that bottleneck at Pear Blossom Pumping Plant. The East Branch enlargement was never fully developed, so many contractors south of the Pear Blossom Pumping Plant don't have the capacity to bring all of their water down. That was really evident in a 100% year like this one. Many other Class 8 agencies have had water that was stranded. They wanted to move, but couldn't move because of that bottleneck. So that leads into the next 2 points, which is we work on, as a group, we try to work on how can we be collaborative and how we move our water. Sometimes we'll bring in Metropolitan to see how they're going to use their capacity and see how we can piggyback off on the times where they're not using their capacity to make sure we fully utilize the East Branch and move everyone's water down as effectively as possible. And then along with that, we as a class want to look at what are our storage needs. Is that one real obvious solution to the Pear Blossom bottleneck is if you get enough storage, you can move that water into storage north of Pear Blossom and then not have to be at risk of losing that water. So those are some things that Class 8, the class that we're a part of, focuses on right now.
I have a question. I mean, it can easily be solved. There's a couple ways. Number one is you're dealing with the largest population and probably the most wealthiest region in the United States. Well, they need to widen it. They need to get grant money. There's a lot of politicians representing all these different districts from here all the way down. It's just all excuses. We've been talking about this, I don't know, I've been on the board too long. I don't even remember how long it's been, 3 decades. The other thing they could do is the state could front this money and they could charge all of us $1 acre foot or $2 an acre foot and to pay it back. But nobody's doing anything. It's all lip service. And they need to do something, and we need to get our legislators involved to get that bridge open. And I think Met, of course, having the most power, we should work with them on doing something like that.
Yeah.
It's a money issue.
Yeah, no, it is a money issue, and it's interesting. That's probably one of the reasons. Met Policy and Water District probably looked at the cost balance between doing High Desert and then doing the expansion. And High Desert ended up a little cheaper this go around. But I'm with you, Director Donato. There seems like we should focus on some sort of solution for that East Branch.
And what most people don't understand, and a lot of these directors, is that we're only allowed to take a certain amount of water in certain portions of the aqueduct because of how wide it is. And I think it shrinks 1 foot per mile going south. So the mouth of the artery clogs up down that way, and it keeps on shrinking.
Right.
So, they need to do something with that. I mean, the money, it's just a money issue.
Right.
And if they started today, they wouldn't get anything done for 5 to 10 years.
It's true.
That's just my good job, doing what you're doing up there, but we need to really be a little more aggressive. Talk to Matt and say, hey, when we go up there next time, we need to throw this thing out. So this thing's more important than that stupid train. Aren't we dealing with 30 million people south of here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, that has a huge impact on a lot of people. All right. All right. All right. So just a quick hit on the governance of the state water contractors. The board, so the 9-member board, provide guidance to the state water contractor general manager. We also provide the focus points for the state water contractors. So just to give some clarity to that, I happen to have been elected to be one of the board members for Class 8. So I will go to meetings with the Class 8 group to discuss what are some things that we want to bring to the table to have the state water contractors focus on in the upcoming year. So we'll try and set those priorities. A lot of times it's very similar. I think what's key on almost everyone's mind is the affordability of the state water project and making sure that it's affordable now, but also affordable in the future. And, sometimes that comes about with making sure that the state water contractors hires the right people to look over the shoulder of DWR and make sure that they're performing necessary work and in a timely and effective manner. So we're checking the books twice. I will say DWR and state water contractors have had strained relationships in the past, but it's really syncing up now. There's a lot of good collaboration and a desire for transparency with DWR. We've seen their spikes in budgets start to really flatline. So we're not getting the variability we used to see probably 5 years ago. So there's a great work going on in terms of managing affordability and managing also just the cost shock from year to year. Water right protection, we're all aware, the water right on the state water project is often one of the first things that people look to cut back on. So we really want the state water contractors to be out there defending the right, being proactive with State Water Resource Control Board and with Governor's Office and making sure that right is held for us. And then there's a lot of risk that's involved and it comes in a variety of fronts. So operational, regulatory, legal, legislative. Just last year, there was a huge energy bill, the SB 1020. It would have caused about $2 billion of extra costs for the for DWR, which a lot of it would have been passed on to State Water Projects. It was accelerating the green energy projects by about 10 years. We asked them to be very aggressive in getting out to the legislature, and they were able to reduce that down from an acceleration of 10 years to an acceleration of 5. And now this year, their big mission is to work with the legislature to cover that cost gap that they've created by having that 5 years of acceleration. So we look at issues like that and push them to really go out there and tackle those on our behalf. And along with that is that external representation. We have a good presence in the governor's office, State Water Resource Control Board, their land management, even the fishery agencies. One thing I would commend our current leadership with State Water Contractors on is we used to take more of just an adversarial path where it was like, if we disagree, then we'll sue, we'll meet you in court. I think now there's been a push to really to work things out without just going directly to lawsuits. And we've seen some fruits of that, and you'll get to hear about more of that throughout this year. I think we just recently had the voluntary agreements that was accepted by the State Water Resource Control Board. It's a huge win for a collaborative solution versus just burning up money in court for 2 decades. So those are the types of things that the governance really pushes for, the board really pushes for with State Water Contractors. So some other things we do, we hire and review the general manager. We consider on a monthly basis legal, policy, and budget actions. We seek unanimity with the board. We don't always have it. Each member casts a vote. And generally it goes by majority vote. However, there is a methodology that exists that if it were ever to become very contentious, that the vote would be done by a proportion of table A. So, but in my 9 to 10 years observing the State Water Contractors, I've never seen it get to that point. So it's been worked out through the board. Board meeting is a forum where we have recurring meetings and special presentations. DWR comes to every single meeting and provides a lot of those recurring presentations. State Water Contractor staff come and give focused presentations on issues that we want to know about. And then we'll bring in consultants. Those consultants might be our legislative rep that we hire to go and really knock on doors in Sacramento, or it might be our legal consultant coming in and talking to us about a specific case or how we're going to approach things. So they'll bring in those types of things for the State Water Contractor Board meeting.
Do they have an in-house lobbyist or is it a contract lobbyist?
It's a contract lobbyist. Yeah. And I apologize. This is super small on the screen. I will do a better job next time, and I'll have it in your packet. But this was last month's agenda, and I won't go through it in detail right now, but I think going forward, what we're going to do is try to pick out some of the highlights from each of these meetings. And then if anything stands out to the State Water Project Committee, we can bring in and do a presentation on any juicy item from the board agenda. And I guess along with that, we already know that there's been that desire to understand State Water Contractors organization better. So we're bringing in Jennifer Pierre, the State Water Contractor General Manager, on November 14th. And she'll be here to give a full presentation on the role of the State Water Contractors, what they're actively doing right now, and give you an opportunity to ask her questions in person. So that'll be coming up. And that concludes my report for this evening, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or get into more detail if you wish.
Okay, is there any questions from the board? That was a very good and thorough report, and we'll look forward to a monthly report and just keeps the board informed.
All right.
Yeah, thank you much.
Good job, Pete.
That'll move on to Matt, to General Manager's report.
Yeah. Peter, if you wouldn't mind advancing over there. No, the other way. Yeah. One more. Okay. So I've just got one slide or two slides this evening. This one, and Pete's going to cover a couple slides and I'll wrap it up. So, we've talked about our 2023 water supply several times, but wanted to kind of give a status report of where we're at. As you know, we had 100% allocation year plus some Article 21 water. So the unbolded numbers there, you can see those were what we presented as our plan a few months back, and happy to report that we're right on target with our original plan. So we still anticipate the customers' deliveries about 40,000 acre feet for this calendar year. Our recharge target was about 60,000. Through the end of September, we have recharged about 44,000 acre feet. So over the next few months, we'll hit that target of 60,000 acre feet of water being recharged this year. And that's at the various recharge facilities that we have available to us. The board approved a number of transfers earlier this year, so we're on target to exchange or transfer about 52,000 acre feet. That's made up of the Five Lions deal, storing some water in the Irvine Ranch Water District's Strand Ranch project, and also the small amount with Homer transfer. So that makes up the 52,000 acre feet. And then that's going to leave us right about 22,000 acre feet of carryover in San Luis that we'll have available to us at the beginning of 2024. Pete's going to show in the next couple of slides, the risk of spill has gone down over the last month or so. So that's good news that 22,000 should not be in risk of spilling between now and the end of the year. So we'll be able to carry that over into 2024 with our original plan, and we're able to bank a significant amount of water for the valley. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this slide before I turn it over to Peter. Okay. I think next slide's yours, Pete.
All right. So there's not a lot going on in this slide. You can see that tiny teal bar down at the bottom left, and that's the amount of precipitation for October so far. We're at the beginning of a new water year, so all those dark blue bars are what's the average for each individual month. So we're based on average conditions. DWR does not think we'll spill San Luis now through the end of December. Now, I just want to throw in that Mother Nature has thrown a lot of tricks at us the last 5 years, so we haven't seen a whole lot of average. So hopefully we get something closer to average and have an easy year of it next year. We do have a strong El Nino out in the Pacific Ocean. I think it's important to talk about what that does in terms of probabilities. It gives us a higher probability of wetter conditions in Southern California, but it's really variable when it comes to Northern California. You could end up with a dry year and an El Nino year in Northern California. So there's not a whole lot of strong sense of whether we're going to have a wet or dry year on the State Water Project going into next year. So a good thing we have that 22,000 acre feet in there. It's a good buffer as we roll into next year. Just real quick, this is a look at Oroville, and you can see, let's see, that black line is 2023 water year, and the tiny blue line kind of up there by the 25 or 2,500,000. that's where we're at right now. Yeah, right there. That's where we're at to start the water year. So we're starting well above average, which is great. Just to be clear, though, we don't actually own any of the water stored in Oroville until it gets through the Delta. So having that water in the Delta means in Oroville means there's a greater chance that water will make it down to the pumps and we'll be able to pump it out. So it's good for us, but we couldn't really look at that amount and say we'll get 50,000 acre feet of table A from it. Well, it'll all be dependent on how the Delta reacts. And then San Luis, similar. Black line is how we ended 2023 water year. That blue line on the left is where we're starting it. It's really full, and that's great. But that has no 2024 table A in it. That's all everybody's carryover from 2023. So as we move forward into the year and as San Luis starts to fill more, then we'll start accumulating table A for the water year of 2024. And I think that was it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Pete.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from our assistant general manager?
Yeah, what's a capacity right now of San Luis?
Let's go back there.
80% or?
I think it's 135%
of average.
Of average.
Oh, okay. And that's why we're not in jeopardy of any spilling.
I apologize. It's 185% of average. But if you look at where it's at in that lower, right there.
Yeah, it's currently 80% of capacity.
80% of capacity, yeah.
80, okay.
And it's trending down. People are doing a pretty good job of putting that water into banks right now. So, and it's a relatively dry October, so the San Luis Reservoir is trending down. So that's why there's a little less risk moving through November and December of spill.
Okay, thank you.
And just to wrap it up, President Lane, we have one more slide here. Just some upcoming events that involve the agency. This Thursday, we have the CSDA Northern Region chapter meeting here at Avek. It's a luncheon. I think there's several of you that are going to attend that. We have the same day on Thursday at 6 p.m. here at Avek. We have the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors meeting. Just a reminder, if you haven't let Holly know already, we do have a tour scheduled with Irvine Ranch Water District up at the Strand Ranch. That's one location where we're currently banking some of Avek's surplus water this year. We're going to leave the office here at 8 a.m. And then Justin mentioned earlier, we have the High Desert Water Bank grand opening or ribbon cutting event on Monday, October 23rd at 10 a.m. You should be getting another invite email on that, and then we'll coordinate as we get closer to the event. But a lot of the logistics is being handled by Metropolitan Water District. And then obviously we have our monthly Water Master meeting on October 25th here at Avek.
Now, the Antelope Valley State, water contractors, it's fairly new that they're meeting here. This is the first meeting, have they met here before?
It's probably the third or fourth meeting that we've had here at Avek.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that's all we have for the report.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, if there's no further questions, that'll bring us down to item number 10. If any directors have a report, bring us on to 11, attorney's report.
Nothing to report, President Lane.
Okay. And is there any request for future agenda items? That we have need to go into closed session, is it correct?
No, we do not tonight. Yeah.
Okay, gosh dang it. That brings us down to adjournment to our next meeting of October 24th. So the motion would be in order.
Mr. President, I'll move to adjourn.
Mr. Miller, you keep things going, Arthur.
I'll second it.
Second by Director Donato.
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you much. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Drew Mercy,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Everybody have a good meeting and thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You-